Hello, my dear friends. This is Rajesh Mahapatra. I hope all of you are doing well and happiness. In this session, I'll be telling you about the concept of what is an IP address in cloud computing, why IP address is required in cloud computing, and the types of IP address in cloud computing. Apart from this, I'll guide you what are the IPv4 ranges about the private IP and public IP so that you can easily understand it and based on your project requirement you can implement it. Guys, let's get started. What is an IP address in cloud computing? IP address are unique numerical identifier assigned to a device on a network, similar to how your home has a unique street address. In the world of networking, IP addresses act as unique identifier for device on a network, similar to street address pinpoint house in a city. But just like city blocks have residential and commercial zone, how does an IP address work in cloud computing? An IP address work in helping your device, whatever you are accessing the internet on, to find whatever the data or content is located to allow for retrieval. IP addresses have two distinct versions or standard as Internet Protocol version IPv4 and IPv6. Basically, guys, the four types of IP addresses as public IP or external IP address, private IP or internal IP address, static IP and dynamic IP. Guys, the public IP or external IP addresses are like your main street address visible to everyone on the internet. They allow your device like your home computer or smartphone to connect to the vast network, access website, send email, stream content and more. Think of it as having a direct line to the outside world. This is a public IP address that can be assigned to VM or other cloud resources to allow it to be accessed from the internet. Private IP or internal IP addresses on other hand are like a internal address within a gated community. They are used within a private network such as your home network or company internal network are not directly accessible from the internet. Imagine them as internal pathway within a building complex connecting a device securely without being exposed to the outside world. This is a private address assigned to a virtual machine or other cloud resources within a virtual private cloud VPC. Internal IP addresses are not routable on the public internet. It means they can only be accessed by other resources within the same VPC. Now guys, I hope so you understand. Basically, public IP addresses accessible from the internet, private IP address not directly accessible from the internet. Public IP addresses global, but private IP addresses local within a private network. Public IP addresses are typically assigned by your internet service provider ISP, but private IP addresses are assigned by the network administrator. Guys, the connecting to the internet and hosting website and remote access, then you can use public IP address. But in the private IP address use cases like connecting a device within a network and sharing resource securely. Now guys, I hope so you understand what is the basic difference between public IP and private IP. Now I'll guide you what is static IP address and dynamic IP address. A static IP address is like a permanent home address for your device on the internet. Unlike the dynamic IP address that changes frequently, a static IP remains the same no matter how many times you restart your device or router. Think of it as a fixed phone number that always associated with you. You know guys, the dynamic IP address is like a temporary phone number for your device on the internet. Unlike static IP that stay the same, a dynamic IP changes periodically, usually when you restart your device or router. Imagine it as a mobile phone number that automatically updates every few months. You keep the same device but the number changes. Unique numerical identifier assigned to your device on the network, especially the internet. Unlike static IP, dynamic IP changes automatically at predetermined intervals or when the certain network event occurs. Guys, you know why IP addresses are required in Google Cloud Platform? Basically, IP addresses are essential in GCP for several key reasons, similar to how they are crucial for device on the internet like network communication, load balancing, routing, identity and security, resource management and monitoring. You know guys, IP addresses are essential for enabling communication between different resources within the Google Cloud environment, whether it's between a virtual machine, load balancer or other services. The IP acts as an single entry point while the load balancer routes the traffic to the most suitable VM based on the real-time condition. In identity and security, you know guys, IP can be used for focused control mechanism. For instance, you can grant access to the specific resources only to authorized IP, improving security and preventing unauthorized access. Resource management and monitoring. You know guys, IP serve as unique identifier for GCP resources, making them easily trackable and manageable. You can monitor resource performance and utilization based on their IP addresses, optimizing resource allocation and troubleshooting issue. Now guys, I'll guide you how to use the IP addresses in GCP. Using IP addresses in Google Cloud Platform involve the several steps including the configuring, networking components and assigning IP address to resources and managing access control. As you can see here guys, the create a project and enable the API fast. Being by creating a project in the Google Cloud Console if you have not already. Enable the necessary APIs such as Compute Engine API, VPC API and any other API relevant to your use cases. Create a virtual private cloud VPC. Set up a VPC to define the network boundaries for your resources. Specify the IP address ranges for your VPC. Create a subnet. Divide your VPC into subnet. Each subnet has its own IP address ranges. Define whether a subnet is a regional or global subnet. Allocate IP address for resource like virtual machine VM. Allocate IP address when creating and configuring instance. Set up the firewall rule to control the incoming outgoing traffic to your resources. Use load balancer. If you are using load balancing, configure it and assign IP address. Define front-end and back-end configuration and specify the IP address for the load balancer. And you know, the implement VPN interconnect and specify the IP address for VPN tunnel or interconnect connection. Cloud DNS, if you need to the domain name resolution, configure the cloud DNS. Associate domain names with IP address. If you want to network peering, you know, if you have a multiple VPC, need them to communicate and set up the network peering. Specify the IP ranges for the paired network. Now guys, I hope so you understand how do you use IP address in Google Cloud Platform. Now guys, I'll guide you what are the public and private IP addresses ranges in cloud computing. Public and private IP address ranges are defined by a certain of address block that are reserved for different purposes. These ranges are specified in the Internet Assigned Number Authority INA standard and are commonly used for network addressing in both public and private network. The two most widely used IP version are IPv4 and IPv6. Guys, the INA Internet Assigned Number Authority is a standard organization for private use and cannot be routed on the public internet. As you can see here, the class A, class B, class C, all the private IP as I mentioned here, and these are the private IP you can use in your project and resources based on your project requirement. Public IP addresses, as you can see here, allows resources in the cloud to be accessed directly from the public internet. Now guys, I hope so you can understand what are the public and private IP addresses ranges in cloud computing. Thank you. See you in the next session and have a great day.